Marcus Chung pressed his palm against the cool metal of the quantum communications array, feeling the subtle vibrations that indicated another transmission from the void. At 26, he had dedicated his life to decoding the mysteries of deep space. Communication, but tonight's signal was unlike anything he had encountered before. Still here, Marcus? Dr. Elena Vasquez, his mentor and the head of the Deep Space Communications Project, approached with 2 steaming cups of coffee. Her silver hair caught the blue glow of the monitors, and her kind eyes showed the concern of someone who had watched him grow from an eager student into a brilliant engineer. "There's something different about this signal," Marcus said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "It's not random cosmic noise. There's a pattern almost like it's trying to communicate directly with our equipment." Elena studied the wavelength displays over his shoulder. "You've been saying that for weeks. Maybe it's time to consider that you're seeing patterns that aren't there." Before Marcus could respond, the laboratory door hissed open. A woman entered, her movements fluid and graceful, in a way that seemed almost otherworldly. Marcus recognized her immediately Naya, his mother's diplomatic colleague, who had been a constant presence in his childhood. She looked exactly as he remembered her from 20 years ago, which should have been impossible. "Hello, Marcus," Naya said, her voice carrying the same melodic quality he remembered. Her dark hair fell in waves around her shoulders, and her eyes held depths that seemed to reflect starlight. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion." "Naya?" Marcus stood, confusion evident in his voice. "What are you doing here? And how do you look exactly the same as when I was a child?" Elena glanced between them, sensing the tension. "I should probably—" "No, please stay," Naya interrupted gently. "What I have to say concerns Earth's future, and you play a crucial role in our communications network." She turned back to Marcus, her expression growing serious. "The signals you've been detecting aren't random, Marcus. They're a message from my people, the Zenthari Collective, and they're meant specifically for you." Marcus felt the world shift. "Around him? Your people? Naya, what are you talking about?" She stepped closer, and he caught a scent like ozone and starflowers. "I'm not human, Marcus. I'm an alien diplomat, and I've been watching over you since you were 5 years old. Your mother knew she's been part of our diplomatic network for decades." The coffee cup slipped from Marcus's fingers, shattering on the floor. Elena stepped forward protectively, but Marcus held up a hand to stop her. "Prove it," he whispered. "NII, single quotes S form shimmered, and suddenly her skin took on a subtle iridescent quality. Her eyes shifted to a deeper shade of violet, and intricate patterns appeared along her temples like living tattoos. "I am Naya of the Zenthari Diplomatic Corps. I've been assigned to monitor your development because you possess something incredibly rare, a genetic and neurological compatibility that makes you one of only a handful of humans capable of bridging the gap between our species." Marcus staggered backward, his rational mind struggling to process the impossible. "This is insane. You're telling me that my childhood friend is an alien who's been studying me like a lab rat?" "Not studying," Naya said softly, her form shifting. "Back to human appearance. Protecting, caring for, and ... She hesitated, learning to love. The admission hung in the air between them. Elena cleared her throat, her scientific mind already racing. If this is true, then the implications for interspecies communication are staggering. But why reveal this now? Naya's expression grew. Grave. Because 2 alien civilizations are on the brink of war, and Marcus may be the only one who can prevent it. The Zenthari and the Axiom Empire have been locked in conflict for centuries, but recent developments have escalated tensions to a breaking point. We need a mediator, someone who can understand both species on a fundamental level. Marcus ran his hands through his dark hair, trying to ground himself in reality. "And you think that's me? I'm just an engineer. I work with machines, not people. You work with communication, Naya corrected, moving closer. You understand how to bridge gaps, how to make connections across vast distances. But more than that, you have something our species has lost the ability to feel deeply, to empathize, to love unconditionally. She reached out and touched his face gently. Her skin was warm, but carried an electric quality that made his pulse quicken. I've watched you grow from a curious child into a man of incredible compassion and intelligence. The way you care for others, the way you see solutions where others see only problems, these qualities are exactly what both species need to find peace. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of impossible choices settling on his shoulders. When he opened them again, Naya was watching him with an expression that mixed hope and fear. What exactly are you asking me to do? He asked quietly. Come with me, Naya said. Meet with the diplomatic councils of both species. Help us find a way to communicate, to understand each other. She paused, her violet eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Help us save both our peoples from destroying each other. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite the surreal circumstances. Marcus, you don't have to decide right now. This is overwhelming, and you need time to process. But Marcus was already shaking his head. He looked at Naya, seeing not just the alien diplomat, but the woman who had been a constant, comforting presence throughout his childhood. The woman who had taught him to see beyond the surface of things, to look for the deeper connections that bound all living beings together. If I do this, he said slowly, if I help you, what happens to Earth? To my life here? Naya's expression softened. I can't promise it will be easy. Interspecies diplomacy is dangerous, and there are factions on both sides who would rather see war than peace. But if we succeed, Earth could become part of a larger galactic community, a partner rather than an isolated world. She stepped even closer, and Marcus could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. And you wouldn't be alone. I would be with you, every step of the way. The moment stretched between them, filled with possibilities and dangers neither could fully comprehend. Marcus realized that his comfortable life as an engineer was about to change forever, and the woman he was beginning to see in a new light would be his guide into an uncertain future. 3 days later, Marcus found himself in a secure conference room deep beneath the university, surrounded by technology that seemed to blend earth science with something far more advanced. Professor James Wright, the man who had been like a father to him since his own father's death, sat across from him with the expression of carefully controlled concern. You're sure about this, son? James asked, his weathered hands clasped tightly on the table. Once you step into this world, there's no going back. Marcus looked at Naya, who stood near a shimmering display that showed star charts of unfamiliar constellations. She had been patient with his questions, honest about the risks, but he could sense there was more she wasn't telling him. There's something else, isn't there? Marcus said. Something you haven't told me about why I'm so important to this peace process. Naya's shoulders tensed slightly. Before she could respond, the air in the room seemed to shift, and another figure materialized tall, imposing, with the same iridescent skin quality as Naya, but more pronounced alien features. This being wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. This is Kef, my superior in the diplomatic corps, Naya said, her voice taking on a more formal tone. He insisted on being present for this conversation. Kef's voice resonated, with harmonic undertones that made Marcus's bones vibrate. Human Marcus Chun, you have been chosen for a purpose greater than simple diplomacy. Your genetic profile indicates compatibility for a process that could create the first true bridge between our species. What kind of process? Marcus asked, though something in Keth's tone made him uneasy. Nai stepped forward, her expression conflicted. Marcus, there's a reason why I've been watching you specifically, why your mother agreed to allow our monitoring. You carry certain genetic markers that are ... incredibly rare. James leaned forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his concern. What kind of genetic markers? The kind that would allow for successful reproduction between human and Xanthari, Kef said bluntly. The creation of a hybrid child who could serve as a living symbol of unity between our species. The room fell silent. Marcus felt as if the ground had shifted beneath his feet. You're talking about having a child with Naya. Not just any child, Kef continued. This offspring would possess the emotional depth of humanity and the enhanced cognitive abilities of the Xanthari. Both species would see themselves reflected in this child, a bridge that could end centuries of conflict. Marcus turned to Naya, searching her face for answers. Is this what you want? Or is this just another diplomatic assignment? Naya's carefully controlled composure cracked. It started as an assignment. But Marcus, these past days, being near you again, remembering why I've always been drawn to you, ... She looked away, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know where duty ends and my feelings begin. Kef's expression remained impassive. Emotions are irrelevant. The Axiom Empire grows stronger every day. Their expansion threatens not just Xanthari territory, but dozens of other worlds. This hybrid child could be the key to forming an alliance strong enough to stop them. And if I refuse? Marcus asked. Then billions die in the coming war, Keth replied coldly. James stood up abruptly. Now wait just a minute. You can't come here and threaten my boy into some kind of arranged reproduction. This is his choice to make. Of course it is, Naya said quickly, moving to stand between Keth and Marcus. No one is forcing anything. But Marcus, you need to understand the stakes. The Axiom Empire doesn't negotiate, they conquer. Entire civilizations have been absorbed into their collective. If they turn their attention to Earth, ... She didn't need to finish the sentence. Marcus could imagine the consequences all too clearly. There's more, Keth added. The hybrid child would not be created through traditional means. Our technology allows for genetic combination without physical reproduction. The child would be gestated in an artificial environment, combining the best qualities of both species. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the clinical nature of the discussion. You're talking about creating a life, a person as a diplomatic tool. No, Naya said firmly, stepping closer to him. We're talking about creating hope. This child would be raised with love, with understanding of both cultures. They would be a bridge, yes, but also a person with their own destiny. She reached out and took his hand, her touch sending warmth up his arm. Marcus, I know this is overwhelming, but I also know your compassion, your desire to help others. If there was any other way to prevent this war, I would take it. Marcus looked into her eyes and saw pain there, the conflict between duty and desire, between the needs of her species and her growing feelings for him. What about us? If we do this, if we create this child together, what does that mean for whatever this is between us? Naya's breath caught. I don't know. Interspecies. Relationships are unprecedented. But Marcus, what I feel for you, it's not part of any assignment. It's real. Kef made a sound of impatience. Emotional entanglements were not part of the plan. Maybe they should have been, Naya shot back, her diplomatic composure slipping. If we're asking Marcus to help create a child, shouldn't that child be born from genuine connection rather than cold calculation? The challenge in her voice surprised everyone, including herself. Keth's expression hardened. You forget yourself, diplomat. Your feelings are a liability. My feelings are what make me effective, Naya replied. They're what help me understand humans, what make me capable of true communication, rather than just exchange of information. Marcus felt something shift in the room's dynamic. He stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of Naya in a protective gesture that felt completely natural. "If I agree to this," he said, addressing Keth directly, "it won't be because of threats or duty. It will be because I choose to, because I believe in the possibility of peace, and because I trust Naya." He turned to look at her, seeing the woman who had been present for so many important moments in his life, who had watched him grow and learn and become the man he was today. "But I need to know this is real, that whatever happens, whatever we face together, we're facing it as partners, not just as diplomatic representatives." Naya's eyes filled with tears that caught the light like liquid diamonds. "It is real, Marcus. More real than anything I've ever experienced." She moved closer, and Marcus felt drawn to her like a gravitational pull. When their lips met, it was electric, not just the physical sensation, but the emotional connection that had been building between them for years without either fully understanding it. Keth cleared his throat pointedly. "The Axiom fleet moves closer to Xanthari space daily. We don't have time for romantic complications." Marcus broke the kiss, but kept his arms around Naya. "Then we'd better work fast. But Keth, understand this: if Naya and I do this, we do it our way. This child won't be just a diplomatic tool. They'll be our child, raised with love and choice." Naya smiled, and for the first time since revealing her true nature, she looked completely relaxed. "I can work with that." James had been watching the exchange with growing understanding. "And Earth? What happens to our world in all this?" "Earth becomes part of something larger," Naya said. "Protected, valued, included in a galactic community that could offer technologies and knowledge beyond imagination." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then let's do it. Let's create a bridge between worlds." As if summoned by his words, the air shimmered again, and Marcus realized that his decision had just changed the course of not just his life, but the fate of entire civilizations. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood in a facility that existed somewhere between dimensions, a place where Xanthari technology bent space and time to create a laboratory unlike anything on Earth. Dr. Zara Okafor, a human geneticist who had been secretly working with alien scientists for years, monitored banks of equipment that hummed with otherworldly energy. "The genetic compatibility is even better than we hoped," Zara said, her dark eyes bright with scientific excitement. "The combination of human emotional complexity and Xanthari cognitive enhancement could create something truly remarkable." Marcus watched Naya through the observation window as she underwent her own medical preparations. Over the past 2 weeks, their relationship had deepened beyond anything he had imagined possible. She had shown him her world through quantum transmissions, shared memories of her childhood among the floating cities of Xanthari Prime, and in return, he had opened his heart to her completely. "Are you having second thoughts?" a deep voice asked behind him. Marcus turned to see Vex, a Xanthari warrior diplomat whose scarred face told stories of countless battles. Unlike Keth's cold calculation, Vex brought a soldier's pragmatism to their mission. "Not about Naya," Marcus said, "but about bringing a child into a universe at war." Vex's expression softened slightly. "I have fought the Axiom for 3 centuries. I have seen worlds burned, civilizations absorbed into their collective consciousness. This child represents the first real hope for peace I have witnessed in my lifetime. And if the Axiom reject this solution, if they see the child as a threat rather than a bridge, then we fight," Vex said simply. "But we fight with allies, with a symbol that reminds everyone why peace is worth pursuing." The door slid open, and Naya entered, her movements graceful, despite the obvious tension in her shoulders. She wore a flowing gown that seemed to be made of liquid mercury, and her hair was braided with strands of light that pulsed gently with her heartbeat. "How are you feeling?" Marcus asked, moving to her side immediately. "Nervous," she admitted, taking his hand. "Not about the procedure, about what comes after. Raising a child between two worlds, teaching them to navigate cultures that have been enemies for centuries." "Doctor," Okafor looked up from her instruments. "The artificial gestation chamber is ready. The genetic combination will take approximately 72 hours to stabilize, and 18 months of development. During that time, both of you will need to maintain regular contact with the developing child. Your biosignatures will help guide the growth process." Marcus felt a surge of protectiveness for a child that didn't even exist yet. What will they be like? "Unique," Naya said softly. "They'll have your capacity for empathy, your ability to see solutions where others see problems. But they'll also have Zenthari longevity, enhanced cognitive processing, and the ability to communicate across species barriers." "They'll be beautiful," Marcus added, squeezing her hand. The moment was interrupted by an urgent chime. Vex's expression immediately shifted to full alert as he activated a communication device. "Report. Axiom ships have entered the neutral zone," a voice crackled through the communicator. "They're demanding to speak with the hybrid project leaders." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "They know about the child?" "The Axiom have extensive intelligence networks," Vex said grimly. "They may see this as a threat to their expansion plans." Naya stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over. "Or they may see it as an opportunity. The Axiom aren't inherently evil. They're a collective consciousness that believes unity can only be achieved through absorption. If we can show them another way." "That's a big if," Marcus said. "What happens if they decide to stop the project?" Before anyone could answer, the air in the laboratory shimmered, and 3 figures materialized. They were humanoid, but clearly artificial. Their skin had a metallic quality, and their eyes glowed with inner light. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, as if they shared a single consciousness. "We are Axiom representatives," they spoke in unison, their voice carrying harmonic frequencies that made Marcus's teeth ache. "We have come to evaluate the hybrid project." Vex moved protectively in front of Marcus and Naya, his hand moving to what Marcus assumed was a weapon. "You are not invited to this facility. Invitation is irrelevant," the Axiom replied. "This project affects the balance of power in the galaxy. We will assess its value." Naya stepped forward, her diplomatic training overriding her fear. "The child we're creating could be the key to ending the conflict between our species. They'll understand both individual consciousness and collective unity." "Understanding is not unity," the Axiom responded. "Individual consciousness creates chaos, conflict, suffering. Only through absorption into the collective can true peace be achieved." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "You're talking about destroying free will, about turning every sentient being into a drone." "We are talking about ending war, ending hunger, ending the inefficiencies of separate existence," the Axiom replied. "Your hybrid child will be an abomination, neither fully individual nor properly collective. It will create more chaos, not less." "You're wrong," Marcus said, surprised by the strength in his own voice. "The child will be proof that different forms of consciousness can coexist, that unity doesn't require uniformity." One of the Axiom representatives stepped closer, and Marcus caught a whiff of ozone and copper. "You speak of concepts you do not understand, human. Your emotional attachments cloud your judgment." "My emotional attachments are what make me human," Marcus replied. "They're what allow me to love, to sacrifice, to hope for something better than what exists now." He moved to stand beside Naya, taking her hand. "The child we're creating will have those same capabilities, but enhanced by Zenthari wisdom and Dar technology." They'll be able to communicate with the Axiom Collective in ways you've never experienced, not as subjects to be absorbed, but as equals to be understood. The Axiom representatives exchanged a look that somehow conveyed entire conversations. You believe this child can bridge the gap between individual and collective consciousness? I believe this child can show all of us a new way forward, Marcus said. But only if we give them the chance. Naya squeezed his hand, and he felt strength flowing between them. The Xanthari have agreed to share our technology with Earth, to create a true alliance rather than a protection arrangement. The Axiom could be part of that alliance, not as conquerors, but as partners. A collective will consider this proposal, the Axiom said after a long pause. But know this, if the hybrid child proves to be a threat to universal order, we will take appropriate action. With that ominous warning, they vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. Dr. Okafor had continued working throughout the encounter, her hands steady despite the tension. The genetic combination is complete, she announced. The child is beginning to develop. Marcus looked at the shimmering chamber that now contained their growing child, feeling a mixture of wonder and terror. We've just committed to raising a child in the middle of an interstellar Cold War. We've committed to raising a child who might end that war, Naya corrected. Our child will be the bridge between worlds, the proof that different forms of consciousness can not only coexist, but thrive together. She turned to face him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Marcus, whatever happens, whatever we face it together. As partners, as parents, as two people who choose love over fear. Marcus pulled her close, feeling the warmth of her body against his, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. Then let's give our child a future worth living in. As they held each other, watching the first flickering signs of life in the artificial womb, Marcus realized that his definition of family and of home was about to expand beyond anything he had ever imagined. 6 months into the gestation period, Marcus found himself aboard a Xanthari diplomatic vessel, watching Earth shrink to a blue marble in the viewscreen. The ship's corridors curved in impossible ways, and the walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to respond to his emotional state. The Axiom have requested a formal meeting, Captain Torres, Earth's new representative to the Galactic Council, informed him through the quantum communicator. They want to observe the child's development personally. Marcus exchanged a worried glance with Naya, who was monitoring the artificial womb's readings. Their child, a daughter, they had learned was developing faster than either species had expected, showing signs of consciousness that shouldn't appear for several more months. What do you think they really want? Marcus asked. To determine if she's a threat, Naya replied quietly. The Axiom Collective has been experiencing something unprecedented dissent within their ranks. Some members are beginning to question the necessity of universal absorption. And they think our daughter is causing this? Not causing, a new voice said from the doorway. Quinn, an Axiom representative who had chosen to maintain individual consciousness, entered the chamber. His appearance was less mechanical than the others Marcus had met, with golden skin that seemed to shift between metallic and organic. Inspiring. Quinn moved to study the developing child, his expression unreadable. She broadcasts emotions, even in the womb. Members of the collective, who have been exposed to her neural patterns, are experiencing curiosity, wonder, feelings they had forgotten existed. Marcus felt a surge of protective instinct. Is that dangerous for her? Not for her, Quinn replied. But it may be dangerous for the collective's unity. There are factions within the Axiom who see her as a virus that must be eliminated. Naya stepped closer to the artificial womb, her hand pressed against the transparent barrier. She's not a virus. She's hope. Hope can be more dangerous than any weapon, Quinn said softly. It makes people question what they've accepted as inevitable. They Ship's communication system chimed, and Vex's voice filled the chamber. We're approaching the neutral zone. Axiom vessels are surrounding us. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Are we under attack? Unknown, Vex replied. But they've requested permission to beam aboard. All of them. Naya's face paled. All of them? That's impossible. The Axiom collective consciousness exists across thousands of individuals. Apparently. Not anymore, Quinn said grimly. The exposure to your daughter's emotional broadcasts has created a schism. The collective is fragmenting. Marcus stared at the developing child, watching her small form floating in the artificial amniotic fluid. She was beautiful, unmistakably human, in her basic structure, but with the elongated limbs and enlarged cranium that marked her Xanthari heritage. Her skin had a subtle luminescence, and her eyes, when they occasionally opened, held depths that seemed far too old for her developmental stage. What have we done? He whispered. What needed to be done? Naya said firmly. Marcus, look at her. Really look. She's not just a child. She's a new form of consciousness entirely. She's experiencing individual thought while maintaining connection to something larger. The question is, Quinn added, whether the galaxy is ready for what she represents. The air in the chamber shimmered, and suddenly they were no longer alone. Dozens of Axiom representatives materialized, their synchronized movements creating a complex pattern around the artificial womb. But something was different. They no longer moved as one. Some approached cautiously, others held back, and a few seemed to be arguing among themselves. The collective is divided, one of them announced, but the voice lacked the harmonic unity Marcus had heard before. The child's influence spreads beyond her physical presence. We are ... changed. Another Axiom representative stepped forward, this one clearly struggling with individual thought. I remember ... beauty. The concept of beauty. The child dreams. Of colors that don't exist. Of music that transcends sound. How do we absorb something that creates rather than merely processes? Marcus felt Naya's hand slip into his, her grip tight with tension. You don't absorb her, he said. You learn. From her. You let her teach you new ways of being. Impossible, a third Axiom interjected, but even as it spoke, its voice carried uncertainty. The collective maintains order through unity. Individual consciousness creates chaos. Look around you, Naya said, gesturing to the arguing Axiom representatives. You're experiencing individual consciousness right now, and the galaxy hasn't ended. You're discovering that unity doesn't require uniformity. The Axiom who had first spoken moved closer to the artificial womb. The child's neural patterns are unlike anything we have encountered. She thinks in harmony's individual thoughts that create collective meaning. It is ... beautiful. And dangerous, added another. She threatens everything we have built. Marcus stepped forward, his protective instincts overriding his fear. She threatens nothing except your assumptions. Our daughter represents a new possibility consciousness that is both individual and connected, creative and ordered. Your daughter? The Axiom collective seemed to focus on him with new intensity. You claim parental bond with this hybrid. I claim love, Marcus said simply. I claim the right to protect her, to guide her, to help her become everything she can be. Naya moved to stand beside him, her presence radiating calm strength. And I claim the same right. This child is not a diplomatic tool or a weapon. She is our daughter, and she deserves the chance to grow up in a galaxy at peace. The Axiom representatives fell silent, their mechanical forms somehow managing to convey deep thought. Finally, Quinn spoke for them all. The collective will withdraw. From Xanthari space, he announced, but not in defeat, in curiosity. We wish to observe this child's development, to understand what she represents. And if she proves to be a threat? Vex asked, his warrior's instincts still on high alert. "Then we will reassess," Quinn replied. "But for now, we choose to hope." The words seemed to hang in the air like a foreign concept that the axiom were still learning to pronounce. One by one, they began to dematerialize, leaving only Quinn behind. "There is something else," he said quietly. "The child's influence extends beyond the axiom collective. Other species throughout the galaxy are beginning to dream of her, to sense her presence. She may be the key to a new form of galactic civilization." Marcus looked at Naya, seeing his own wonder reflected in her eyes. "What kind of civilization?" "One based on connection rather than conquest," Quinn replied. "One where different forms of consciousness can coexist and learn from each other." As if responding to the conversation, the child in the artificial womb stirred, her tiny hand pressing against the barrier. For a moment, Marcus felt a brush of consciousness against his mind, not invasive, but welcoming, warm, loving. "She knows." "U.S.," he whispered. "She knows everyone," Naya said softly. "That's her gift. She sees the connections between all living things." Quinn nodded. "And perhaps that is what the galaxy needs, not a conqueror or a ruler, but a bridge builder. Someone who can help us all remember what we share rather than what divides us." As the axiom ships withdrew from the neutral zone, Marcus placed his hand against the artificial womb, feeling the pulse of his daughter's growing consciousness. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever threats they would face, he knew they would face them together, as a family that spanned the stars.